Blue and red lights lit up the trees around my lake like a firestorm. Two police cruisers pulled up gravel, crunching under their tires, and there was Karen standing at my gate waving her arms like she owned the whole county. "Officer, that's the man. He locked the community out of our lake," she shouted, her pearls gleaming under the flashing lights. Bradley, her muscle held bolt cutters like a trophy ready to snap through the chain, and Tina scribbled notes on a clipboard like she was documenting history. I stood there with my deed in one hand, my wife Sarah clutching the other, knowing in that moment that everything was about to explode, all because I refused to let the HOA claim what they never owned. When Sarah and I bought the old cabin at Wood Hollow Lake, it felt like a dream. Pine trees on the shore, dragonflies hovering over glassy water, the kind of place you think only exists in postcards. At closing, the title company made it clear the lake wasn't common land. It was part of our parcel deed and all. Rare, yes, but perfectly legal. We thought it would be peaceful, maybe a little quirky, explaining to neighbors that the lake was private, but still we wanted to share it kindly, fairly. That was before we met Karen. Karen cracked her door open the first day we introduced ourselves, chain still latched, eyes sharp. "Do you have the HOA packet?" she asked. I told her no. We weren't inside the HOA boundary, our parcel was separate. Her smile was tight, her words tighter. "No one is separate. You will follow the rules. Yard standards, quiet hours, paint colors, and lake usage. The board will inspect on Saturday." She slammed the door before I could respond. I remember standing there thinking, what the hell just happened? Saturday came, and sure enough, she marched in with Bradley and Tina like they were storming a castle. Bradley wore sunglasses that hid everything but arrogance. Tina rolled a measuring wheel along my shoreline, whispering numbers like spells. Karen walked the dock, tapping the boards with her toe, declaring, "This will need to meet ADA standards for community access. We'll schedule tournaments on Saturdays, and you can coordinate your private use with me. I keep a calendar." I tried to stay calm, tried to be neighborly. I offered muffins and coffee at a later meeting. I even highlighted the deed in neon yellow to make things crystal clear. But Karen shoved it back like it was sticky sneering. "You will remove your lock and leave the gate open, dawn to dusk. That's how you belong. Belong, a nice word when it's genuine, a cruel word when it's forced." For a while, I kept trying. I taught a neighbor kid, Noah, how to fish, let families use the West Bank, even hosted a pancake breakfast by the dock. But the kindness didn't stick. The HOA Paddle Club barged in one Sunday, blasting music, leaving trash breaking the dock rail. Sarah and I spent half the night picking up beer bottles and nails from the ramp. That was when I chained the gate. Not to keep out friends, just to stop the chaos until we figured things out. Karen saw that chain as a challenge. At dawn, she showed up with her board members demanding access. I told her politely that we could meet the next day to discuss rules. She smirked, pulled out her phone, and dialed 911 right in front of me. "Yes, officer. There's a man blocking community property and escalating. We need help." And that's how I ended up standing in front of flashing lights, neighbors crowding behind her, Bradley's bolt cutters clamped around my chain. The officer asked for documents. I handed him the deed through the fence. He flipped through frowning, while Karen craned her neck like a vulture. He forged that paper, she spat. Bradley tightened his grip on the cutter's metal, groaning. The officer barked, "Put those down now," but Karen snapped her fingers like she was commanding a dog. "Don't listen. Cut it all." For a second, I thought it was over. Then the officer yanked the cutters from Bradley's hands and threw them on the ground. Karen's face turned crimson. She leaned close, hissing so only I could hear, "You'll regret this. We'll make your life miserable." That night I found the dock spray-painted in angry red letters. HOA owns this. My heart sank. Sarah gasped, covering her mouth, her hands trembling. The next morning a canoe was tipped over at the shoreline with, "Get out," scrawled across it. That was the moment I cracked. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the words, wondering if I was wrong, if fighting this was tearing our lives apart. Maybe I should just give in. Let them have it, keep the peace. Sarah put her hand over mine, her eyes steady. "If we let them take this, what's left of us, We don't break Evan. That's how we win. I called an attorney, Rachel Grant. She studied the deed, the maps, the photos of vandalism. You're solid, she said. The HOA has no rights here, but they'll try to break you with lawsuits, attrition, intimidation. That's their weapon. She leaned forward, her eyes sharp. If they sue, we counter. Trespassing, vandalism, harassment. We'll hit back twice as hard. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Karen didn't slow down. She organized a full-on lake celebration, parading through the streets with a megaphone. Neighbors carried coolers and speakers flooding toward my gate like an army. Bradley arrived with an even bigger set of bolt cutters grinning at me. Round 2, Evan. Sarah clutched my arm, pale as a ghost. I whispered, "We record everything," and we did. Every beer can tossed, every fence cut, every word Karen screamed into that megaphone. By the time Sheriff Daniels arrived, the lake looked like a war zone. Trash piled in corners, smoke from grills choked the air. Kids splashed through broken glass in the shallows. Daniels shut it down on the spot, telling Karen tradition isn't ownership. Without legal documents, you're trespassing. She raged, shouting through her megaphone, but no one listened. One by one, the crowd drifted away, leaving only her and her lieutenants. When the lawsuit came, I wasn't surprised. A thick envelope with HOA letterhead injunction to enforce community access penalties damages. Sarah's hands shook as she read. They're actually going to sue us. I looked out at the lake, calm and glassy, and said, then we'll meet them in court. The hearing was packed. Karen strutted to the stand in her pearls, waving old newsletters and photos of families fishing, her voice trembling with passion. This lake has always been ours. Mr. Miller's selfishness tears us apart. The crowd murmured some nodding. For a second I wondered, what if the judge bought it? What if all the facts in the world couldn't compete with sentiment? Then Rachel rose calm as steel. She handed over the deed, the parcel maps, the title, history. Your Honor, the law recognizes ownership, not nostalgia. She played the videos I recorded, the chain snapping, the spray paint, the chaos of Karen's so-called celebration. Gasps rippled through the room. Even Karen's supporters shifted uncomfortably. The judge's eyes narrowed. Do you have any legal deeds or easements? She asked. Karen stammered. We have history. The judge's voice was flat. History is not ownership. That was it. The air went out of the room. Karen's face drained as the judge announced she would issue a ruling confirming my ownership and denying the HOA's claim. Outside the courthouse, Karen's smile was gone. Her eyes burned with rage but also desperation. She leaned close, muttering, "This isn't over." But it was. Days later, Sheriff Daniels served her with an investigation notice, trespassing, harassment, suspected arson. Neighbors who once cheered for her now turned away. Bradley looked at the ground. Tina closed her clipboard for good. Karen screamed as she was led away. I'm the HOA president. You can't arrest me. Daniels shook his head. Not anymore. And just like that, the war was over. Not with a handshake, not with a party, but with a collapse. Karen lost her power, her grip, her voice. Some fights aren't about winning a prize, they're about holding your ground. And the truth is, simple kindness doesn't mean surrender.